Goodness. I want to call this meeting of the Simpson County Fiscal Court to order. Obviously, you see we got an empty seat up here. Magistrate Scott Poston, his mother-in-law has passed, so one of the things we definitely want to do is ask the community to keep the Manning family in your prayers. And then we have one of our road crew guys was injured in an accident on out taking care of the roads early Sunday morning and had to have surgery. And so just ask everybody to keep him in your prayers. So this morning I've got our road supervisor, Bobby Groves, we're going to get the meeting started with prayer, and we'll follow that to the pledge. But we definitely want to remember Tommy and the Manning family as we go to prayer this morning.
Pray with me, please. Father, first of all, we come to you and thank you for the blessings that you give us each day and how you provide for us and watch over us. We're thankful for all that we have. But we do want to bring these to prayer that have been mentioned for the Manning family, for that you would watch over and comfort them and be with them in this time of their loss. And we thank you for the life of Miss Manning and what she's done for our community. We just pray you'll be with that family. We also pray for Tommy and also the couple that was injured in that accident, that you would give them rest and peace, and that their bodies would heal quickly, and that you would watch over them and provide for them all that they need. Lord, as we go through this day, we thank you for taking care of us. We pray for these men that make decisions in our community and for the men and women that serve our community and our country, that you would watch over them and keep them safe. We, again, thank you for the blessings you give us, providing for us, and for loving us. We thank you for your Son that's our Savior. In Christ's name, amen.
Amen. Thank you, Bob.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, gentlemen, the minutes of our December 17th regular court meeting, you have them before you, so we just need a motion and a second to approve those minutes.
Move to approve.
Got a motion by Marty.
Second.
Second by Jeffrey. Any question, discussion, or correction to those minutes? Hearing none, all in favor, aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries. Next is to approve the second reading and final passage of Planning and Zoning Ordinance number 920.126. This is a text amendment ordinance adding the words daycare centers and nurseries to conditional use in an ag zone. We had the first reading at our December 17th meeting, I believe.
So moved.
Got a motion by Jeffrey, a second by Myron. Any question or discussion? Sydney will do a roll call.
Burr,
Yes.
Thurman,
Yes.
Chandler,
Yes.
Barnes.
Yes. Next, if y'all recall, there were a couple of roads that we had requested speed limit settings on. I think one was Purdue Road at 25, the other was Russellville Gallatin at 45. So the counselors prepared that ordinance, so we'd need a motion and a second to approve first reading of speed limit ordinance number 530.63.
So moved.
Got a motion by Myron.
Second.
Second by Jeffrey. Any question or discussion? All in favor? Oh, no. Roll call.
Roll call.
Thurman,
Yes.
Burr,
Yes.
Chandler,
Yes.
Barnes.
Yes. Next, gentlemen, and I think Bobby, correct me here if I'm mistaken on this, but we had applied for a water mitigation grant from FEMA to get some areas where water would set over roads in heavy rain. So they sent back something and said they had to have a design for it, and so we had to get quotes for the design work that would need to be done on these two areas were Harris School Road and Coomer Road, and you see the quotes for $6,000 each. And I guess to be very clear, and here's why I need your help if I'm mistaken here. We still have not been guaranteed that we're getting the grant, but typically they only ask for the design work if they intend to issue the grant. Is that
Yes.
pretty accurate?
And we'd be guaranteed not to get the grant.
Yes, if
We
we
didn't do
do
it.
not submit the design work, we absolutely will not get the grant.
This is for actually a flood study for design.
Yeah.
So it's a preliminary type of thing.
So that doesn't design the bridge, it just
It
designs,
gives you the specs for the design.
okay.
Yeah, and then the grant would cover everything else, but as Marty stated, if we don't submit this, we will not get the grant.
Now, do we need two motions for, one for each road, or?
That's a question for the counselor, because the cost for the design work is $6,000 for each one.
I would probably be cleaner if you do two.
Okay. So what I would need then would be a motion to approve the design quote for the study on Harris School Road at $6,000.
So moved.
Got a motion by Jeffrey and a second by Marty. Any other question or discussion? All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries. And then I would need a motion and a second for the same, the design work for the study, or for the whatever they're called, what is it, for the study? Whatever I said the first time, Sidney,
So moved.
for Coomer Road. Got a motion by Myron,
Second.
second by Marty. Any question, discussion on that one? All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries. Next is, you've had some information for the county clerk's proposed 2025 annual budget. As y'all are all aware, we have to do the clerk and the sheriff on our annual calendar year budgets, but then we have to turn around and incorporate all of that into our fiscal year budget beginning July 1. And so you see the information before you, the year-over-year comparisons, and where the budget is at, and the clerk is here to answer any questions that anyone may have. Or do you want to share anything about your budget?
Not really much. Our budget's cut and dry. I'm sure if you look at the year-over-year comparisons, you can see that it's not, there's not much to it. Obviously, some things have jumped up. Our usage tax and ad valorem tax intake's always going up, and so I'm just trying to get a better understanding on that and make sure those numbers match as close as possible, but that's about it. It's, like I said, it's pretty simple, cut and dry. We spend less than we bring in, so that's always a good thing, and continue to do so.
Well, I have a thought on this.
Do what?
I say I have a thought on this, and it kind of goes along with the sheriff's budget, so I know we're doing sheriff's budget next. Last year, we gave the road deputies a nice raise. I would, instead of doing 3.5%, I'm gonna run this by the court to see what the court thinks, but instead of doing 3.5% cost of living for all the county employees, I would like to see the numbers on doing a 5% increase for all the employees, except the road deputies, and give the road deputies a $2 an hour increase. And that puts them even with the $6, with the 4 last year, the 2 this year, that would even put them even with the $6 for the city police. So, and that would affect this budget if we are talking, so we kind of wanted to run that by people.
Yeah, I have no issue with that. Obviously, and this is why it gets kind of hairy and it's a little bit different animal, is what we're talking about here in this annual budget doesn't, even the 3 and the 3.5% that they're proposing, they don't really plug that in until July 1 anyway. So when you're looking at this raise that they're talking,
It don't take effect till July 1.
It don't take effect till July 1. So really what we're doing here is just passing their recommended budget for an annual budget, because the auditors request that they have an annual calendar year budget passed. And what we've had to do, I know we've done this the last couple of years, because they being the county clerk and the sheriff have both plugged in like percentage raises, and then when we got to the fiscal year raise, you know, the CPI that the state set forth was even greater than what they had plugged in. So we had to go back and do an amended calendar year budget for the clerk and the sheriff both. So I absolutely have no problem with taking a look at that and seeing what we do with the budget like that at the fiscal year. I guess my thoughts would be, we'll pass this, and then if the CPI comes out at 3%, we can look at if we do 5%. If we can do it, we can plug it in and then just amend their budget. Obviously, if the CPI were like it did a few years ago, and I don't think it will, but y'all recall a few years ago, the CPI was like 7%.
Yeah.
And then 6.5.
Yeah, so obviously, if the CPI is 7%, and we vote as a board that all the elected officials, minus the clerk, the
Here we
sheriff, the
go.
jailer, and the county judge, because we don't get to vote on our, but y'all know what I'm saying. If we vote for everyone to take the CPI and it's greater than this 3 and 3.5, then obviously we're going to have to amend their budget so that all employees are getting a raise equal to. So I have no problem with that.
I wanted to bring that out, that's what I would,
Yeah.
that's more than, you're talking 3.5, the sheriff was talking 3, and that was more than what they were talking about, but I don't know what the other guys think about it, but I was thinking we might look at getting those road deputies up, even with our city police.
Yeah, I have no issue with it. Once we start talking about our fiscal year budget, if we need to make an amendment for the clerk and the sheriff's budget to reflect all that.
Then we would have to vote, we
Well, we
vote
kinda
on
just-
their maximum salaries, but would that be changed next year?
Yes,
we
and that's
have to
what we've
amend-
done the last 2 or
Right.
3
Yep,
years.
we've had to amend
Yeah.
those too.
Because
Okay.
we went higher than that 3.5%.
Yeah, yeah.
Nobody would probably have a problem getting 5.
Yeah, no,
3.5.
no problem from here. They appreciate that. Yeah, I think the past 2 years, I know in that instance, it's always been more, and so we'll just usually take something from another line item. And with our budget, the clerk's office, there's not a lot of stuff that we need when it comes to the cost of stuff, and so my ladies are pretty low
Well,
maintenance.
we're
and
hoping
we
as we
don't-
go into the next fiscal year that your
Yeah.
maintenance costs come way
Yeah, our
down.
maintenance costs are gonna go down, and really, I've got a line on them there, but I'm hoping we don't have any maintenance issues in the next 6 months, so.
Yeah, this time
but-
next year, we should be in a new building. shouldn't we?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. By the time we start the new fiscal year,
Wow. And I'd imagine our electric bill and stuff like that would be less too.
so yeah, no, Marty, I have no problem with that. I just think it's something we would have to do as we talk about our fiscal year budget and then make amendments to theirs if we go greater.
Well, I move to approve this budget.
All right, so we got a motion to approve the calendar year budget for the 2025 calendar year budget for the county clerk. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Got a second by Meyer. And any other question or discussion? All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries. And in conjunction with that motion is the next we have to do, and this has to be done by vote, is for the county clerk's calendar year 2025 maximum salaries be set. And with this current budget, that number would be $444,252. Now, everyone bear in mind, that's not just pay, that's pay, retirement, Social Security, every cost associated with the employee is all part of that number there. And again, if we make an adjustment in the fiscal year above what this recommendation is, we would have to come back and amend this maximum salary also to reflect whatever change we make. But as presented at the moment, that's what it would be currently.
So moved.
Got a motion by Jeffrey to approve that,
Second.
second by Marty. Any question or discussion? All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Sheriff, do you have anything you want to share about your budget? Because that's the next item of agenda, is to approve the sheriff's 2025 annual calendar year budget.
I'll keep it short. There's no, actually, the budget was in pretty good shape. It reflects about a overall 3% difference from last year, which is going to make sense because 97 to 98% of our budget is employee payroll and what we need. I did put 3% in for that. Really don't need to discuss that. I do a gentleman's agreement with y'all in the presentation of this budget on what y'all have already discussed, that if the county employees get a little bit more than that, then ours will just be moved up. It can be moved down if that's the case, but 3% was something to throw in there to get the figures out to you. Fiscal court wise, last year we had, this is what policing cost you. Like our county clerk, the funds that we bring in, our revenue for 2025 is $1,603,000. Sometimes you have people not realize that the sheriff's office has a revenue and we turn it over to fiscal court. So $1,603,000 approximately is what our revenue. Last year it was $1,531,000, so it went up about $72,000, and that's because the tax base is coming up. Fiscal court contribution in 2024, what we ask you for, and numbers are going to be a little bit different at the end of the year because you actually get everything in and can see what they truly were. But what we asked for was, your contribution was $1,767,578. 2025, we're asking for $1,795,878. So even though the budget's 3%, we're only asking y'all for 1.5%, which is honestly, if you get studying budgets and y'all been around for a while, that's tremendous. It's nothing that I've particularly done. It's just we're in pretty good shape as far as that goes. There's nothing that's gone up a whole lot. Some of our line item stuff, but again, that's just 2% of the budget. There's a few things that went up. One of them's building maintenance. We usually ask for $5,000. We asked for $9,000. Y'all remember the camera deal you did here at the courthouse? We've got a few cameras at the sheriff's office, but they really cover that whole parking lot across the street and the Justice Center. And they're the Chinese cameras that Adam had instructed y'all about that y'all needed to replace. So that's that $4,000 difference will enable me at some point this year to look at putting in some better cameras like the jail's got and they have here. The only other big thing that went up, software, we usually ask for $11,000, we're up to $24,000, but everything is driven off software now, and I would bore you to death if I went through how much of the police stuff involves software. Computers in the car, computers in the office, and then a lot of the different things we use, but that would be reflective. That, plus the body cameras. Body cameras alone, just for the software, not counting the service and all that, is $8,000 a year. So that's programmed into that. So I don't want to talk your heads up. I'll be glad to answer your questions, but it's pretty straightforward the way it sits. Any questions?
Gentlemen, y'all have questions?
No.
All right, so we just need a motion and a second to approve the sheriff's 2025 annual calendar year budget as presented.
So moved.
Got a motion by Marty,
Second.
second by Jeffrey. No other question or discussion. All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries. And again, as part and parcel to the sheriff's annual calendar year budget, we would have to have a motion and a second to approve the maximum salaries for 2025 for sheriff's deputies. Pending, this would be as presented. Obviously, again, if we make any changes as we go into the fiscal year, we would have to amend this. But that number as presented currently would be $2,739,426. Here again, that's not all salary. That's salary, hazardous duty retirement, Social Security, all the costs associated with those employees are rolled into that number.
Yeah, the sheriff don't make 2.7 million.
No, no.
So much.
All right, we got a motion by Marty,
Second.
second by Myron. Any question or discussion? All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries. Moving on, gentlemen, I need a motion and a second to do approve the budget transfers.
So moved.
Got a motion by Marty,
Take it.
second by Jeffrey. Any question or discussion? All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries. Gentlemen, we're going to skip over the bills and claims till the end of, I want to hold that till the end of the meeting. We'll visit that back. Next would be the December financial statement. We need a motion and a second to approve the December financial statement, subject to audit, and authorize the county treasurer and the county judge to sign it.
So moved.
Got a motion by Marty,
Second.
second by Jeffrey. Any question or discussion? All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries. All right, reports, obviously on the portal, and this is not any action item, it's just on the portal for your review. I just want to point out that it's there, is the annual audit for the clerk and the sheriff's activities. That information is there on the portal. It appeared that the sheriff and the clerk both got good, clean audits, and I don't think there was any major infractions. In fact, I don't know if there was any minor infractions. All right, so just wanted to point that out. Couple of activities that I want to remind you guys about, but we'll need some feedback on, is 2 weeks from yesterday, which will be January 20th, will be the Martin Luther King breakfast. It's over at the Methodist Church, as it typically has been for the last several years. There is a cost to go. If you'd like to attend that, either let me or Stacy know so we can get a number to the folks putting that on to get that. Also, on January 23rd, which will be a Thursday evening, I believe, is that correct? Yes. This Thursday of that same week is the Chamber of Commerce annual meeting. Again, it will be held out at the Mint like it was last year. If you plan to attend, just let me and or Stacy know, and we can make arrangements to make sure we've got tickets and all that for everybody that wants to go. Another item that you have laying there, I give y'all this. I received a letter from a resident over in Sherwood Terrace subdivision, and I know I just gave this to y'all this morning. I'm asking you to take it, read it, look at it. The request has been, and hers isn't really the only request, but it's the only one that I've actually received in writing with somebody that has signed, affixed their name to it. I'll be quite honest so the public knows this too. I have probably received in my 6 years roughly a half a dozen anonymous letters. I'm going to be honest with you, I throw anonymous letters in the trash because one, there's not any substance to them, and two, if you're not going to tell me who you are and why you're complaining, well, I'm not going to bring it up before this board, this court to see. I mean, I respect someone that's got a complaint, but I'm going to listen to their complaint if they're willing to say, hey, this is who I am and here's why I'm complaining. So I called and spoke with this lady, and I told her that I was going to present all this to you guys. We currently do not have, this is a noise disturbance ordinance, and you can see a couple of things that happen. The slippery slope to a noise ordinance outside the city limits is we are still, the majority of our property outside the city limits is still ag zoned. The last thing we need is anybody having the ability to call and complain because somebody's running a combine at 9 o'clock at night trying to beat the rain, or they're beating and banging on a piece of equipment trying to get it fixed. That would definitely not be the intent.
Or a grain bin dryer
Or a
blowing.
grain bin dryer running and blowing. If you don't want to hear that type of activity, then stay in a subdivision somewhere. Because I can assure you, if you move out into the rural parts of the county, you're going to hear equipment running, you're going to hear grain dryers running. I mean, you're going to hear all of those things. And when you call and complain to me that this guy's thrashing wheat at 9 o'clock at night and it's already dark, I'm going to say, well, I hope he gets done before it rains. That's going to be my answer. Because typically is that not you guys farm? Is that what?
Exactly.
If you're thrashing at 9 o'clock at night running lights, you're trying to beat some weather.
Exactly. But in this, there are also some subdivisions here in town that is not outside, that is outside the city limits.
Yeah.
If we could look at something to, just in those highly populated areas, I wouldn't necessarily have a problem with that, but I would not be willing, I wouldn't want to do anything countywide because.
I couldn't agree to a countywide ordinance. And so, Counselor, that brings up a question. Can we do a county sound ordinance that would be limited to subdivision areas only? Because we currently have like 7 or 8 county subdivisions where they're actually subdivisions. And I feel like, I mean, I don't know that this will happen, but I feel like there is a possibility that there could be other county subdivisions developed in the future.
The only concern I might have is someone might argue an equal protection issue, meaning that if I live in a subdivision outside the city limits, I get this protection from noise, noise disturbances, whereas if I live outside a subdivision, I don't get this protection. And not every noise, issue is a grain bin, dryer, or a combine thrashing and wheat, or combining or shelling corn in the middle of the night. I know Mason was here. I think Myron, you and Marty were here a few years ago. They had this person out close to the boat ramp. Guy was, for whatever reason, was shooting a rifle at targets and tannerite targets 2 and 3 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah, I actually went and visited.
Most of this stuff is two neighbors that don't get along, and
But
one
my
tries to
point
prove a
is,
point to the other.
and he was wanting a noise ordinance, and the court was not buying what he was selling, though they were certainly sympathetic. And I think, Judge, you talked to the guy.
I went and met him.
And he wasn't
It was a good conversation.
But I mean, he didn't stop him from shooting the rifle in the middle of the night. I know the sheriff's deputies went out there many times. And so my only concern is, if you do that, if you live outside a subdivision, there might be some folks there saying, well, what about us?
That's why you're here.
Well, I'm just saying that there's an equal protection issue. I'm not so sure you can just shoehorn it into a subdivision. That's my concern, at least lawfully.
Would it be worthwhile, and I mean, I think I know the answer to this, but I'm going to ask it so that y'all can chime in. Would it be worthwhile for me to send an email to the Judge Executives Association just to see if other counties have any type of noise ordinance currently in the areas outside the city limits, and just see what they read?
I certainly think there's nothing wrong with looking into it. Certainly nothing illegal, immoral, or fattening about that. You need to do that, and I'm happy to review and plagiarize some other ordinances. I'm sure if that's the case, I can talk to my brethren or sister county attorneys and plagiarize something they've done, because I've sent stuff to other.
You bring up a good point. While I will say I'm not necessarily opposed to some kind of sound ordinance in a subdivision area, I understand exactly what you're saying, and I don't need us getting into
No, I'm not going to do that. And I'm not for more government.
No.
And more restriction on people.
No.
Judge, the only reason I came up,
Yes, sir.
and there's 1,000 ways to argue noise stuff. I'm not even getting into that, so y'all can relax. But I don't think there's a lot of places that feel like a neighborhood out in the county, and you would look around, you'd go, I'm standing in a neighborhood, but none of them are neighborhood. We don't have anything that's designated a neighborhood outside of the city limits, but John would know more than I would, but that's what I've always been told
We do have 7 or 8 named subdivisions that are outside the city limits.
John, are they technically subdivisions, so?
This one here is, for sure. This is Sherwood Terrace.
Sheriff, if
Is it? I don't know what it takes to be one.
So Cambridge Trace is another. Cambridge Trace is an actual subdivision. It's outside the corporate city limits.
Has the county recognized it as such? And do they have to? I'm not arguing about, but I've been told in the past on some things
Because
that even though it looks like, and it's named a subdivision, I don't know what the process is.
Because in order for it to be a subdivision, because outside the city limits, unless you own an acre or more of land, you can't build a residence, okay? Unless it is subdivided and approved as a subdivision.
Sheriff, all that.
I'm good with it either way, but I would, to Sam and John, y'all think about that. And that's, you're a builder, I agree, standing in any of those places, I look around and I go, this is a subdivision. I've known it as a subdivision my whole life. But I've also been told over the years that in the county, it's not a subdivision.
Well, and what you could also get is you could get 4 different 5-acre tracts of land along a road somewhere, and if you have different 5-acre tracts, here's a 5-acre tract, here's a 5, here's a 5. You can do what's called a, what do you call it, John? Not a subdivision plat, but a minor. You can do a minor sub, which doesn't have to be a subdivision, and you could divide that 5 acres into 4, if you've done them equally, 1 1/4 acre tracts.
Right.
And now you've done this to like 5 pieces of land. Now along this road, you've got 20 acre, but it's not technically a subdivision. But we do have 7 or 8.
Well, I guess from the sheriff's aspect, and it will take our legal Eagle County attorney to do some thinking in it. I'm not opposing any of you on that question, but in the eyes of the law, we have to know. I can't go, I think this is a subdivision. I've known this to be a subdivision my whole life, and then charge somebody, if it ever come down to charging somebody, and ended up in district court to be told it's not. They don't just dismiss something, you've taken somebody's rights away that you should have known
Sam
not to.
brings up a point that I never really thought about, but that's why we have a county attorney.
Yes.
Is the whole idea of the equal protection. If you do it for this group and it's not applying to that group, then where does that put us? And there again, I'm with Marty on this. I'm definitely not in a position or a place where I think we need to impose more government restrictions on people.
I totally agree. Marty, you were trying to ask me something.
I was going to say, if there was one, and they call and said there's loud music, and then when you get there, they don't have any music playing, really there's nothing you can do anyway, is there?
Well,
Ask them not to do it, tell them.
Generally, right now, if you're in the county, and really even in the city to some degree, they have some noise stuff. You've got to be able to show the noises to a certain level. We don't have any devices to do that. But I can ask you to turn your music down, but honestly, do you have to? No. You're being a bad neighbor, and I talk to people all the time that's got bad neighbors that are just trying to tee them off.
That's what most of this, on Boat Ramp Road, that was 2 neighbors that wasn't getting along, and they were just doing that to aggravate one another.
Yeah.
but only one of them was like, shooting in the middle of the night, and
Yeah.
exploding stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
Aggravating one another.
So, I'm glad to do this. I'm glad because we do this all the time. There's different questions sent out to the Judges Association, and various counties will reply back and answer. I'm glad to get
That's fine.
information to other counties have it. We can take a look at it. I'm not
Sure.
saying we should do it, but it doesn't hurt to look and see what other counties are doing.
Yeah.
All right, and then just for a notice, I laid this on your desk this morning too, is because this just come 2 o'clock yesterday afternoon, that there was an update to the 9th Planning and Zoning meeting, and that update was a Housing and Infrastructure Committee presenting the idea of a new zone, which is an R1C, and I point that out just so y'all know this. I have no idea what the Housing and Infrastructure Committee is. I had no idea that there was one assembled. to make any recommendations to any changes to the planning and zoning regs. I have no idea who the members are or who appointed the members. My assumption is the city appointed them and the city put it together. And again, we weren't notified or asked, do y'all want to participate in any of this?
And have no idea what an R1C zone
I
is.
don't know.
or
John
why we
may
need
be able
one.
to tell us what an R1C is. Well, if John can't tell us what an R1C is, then we're at a
I'd like to
loss.
know what it is and why we need it.
I don't know. Now, we have an R1S, which is a single-family residential, and the S stands for small lot, where you can actually get a lot, 75 foot wide. So if the C may be for compact, I have no idea. I don't know the terminology R1C.
Well, if it's commercial, it would be a.
It wouldn't be residential.
It'll be
I'm just
residential
saying,
anyway.
they're gonna have this discussion tonight, and here again, I would venture to say, I'm sure that it's gonna be, the answer and the question is gonna be, well, this is just something that will pertain to subdivisions in the city limits, but we jointly operate the function of planning and zoning, and I just feel like that we should have the knowledge and understanding, and if we're gonna have a committee that brings recommended changes to the planning and zoning regs, there needs to be some representation, I would think, even from this side. Counselor, you look as though you have a thought and an idea in your mind.
I would think so. Obviously, we have a joint meeting coming up fairly soon
Hopefully.
with the city, and it's something we need to discuss. Probably wouldn't hurt to have someone go to the meeting tonight to see, ask questions.
I vote for the judge to go.
No.
Well, I'm just saying, can ask with this, who is this committee, where's it come from, and, what this new proposal, as the judge said, why do we need it? I mean, that's one way to find out, but that's what's going on. But that's my thought. My thought is that's something, I think, since it's a jointly run planning and zoning, Franklin Simpson planning and zoning, it probably wouldn't hurt for such a committee, probably wouldn't hurt to have representation from both governmental bodies on it.
You brought up the joint meeting, and an email chain that I seen, that I was included in, it said, the way I read it, they were going to wait until the 13th to decide when they wanted to have the meeting. And I thought we were going to have the meeting on the 13th.
Okay, well,
But anyway, I just wanted y'all to be aware, because I have no idea what this is about. And I'm not saying that I'm not saying it's not a needed zone. I have no idea. I'm just thinking if you're going to make required change or request changes to the planning and zoning regs, there needs to be some conversation and inclusion. I can say this, and I think that I'm saying this with all assurance. If we were making a request, we being the fiscal court, to change some kind of regulation in the planning and zoning, prior to addressing the planning and zoning commission with that request, we would have sent some information and notification to the city of what we were wanting to do and why.
But in that case, if it's outside the city limits, it doesn't affect the city. But in this case here, we're talking about anything the city does affects, the city's in the county, so anything the city does affects the county.
But even if it was something we were going to do that would be outside the city limits, I would still feel an
Well, I agree.
obligation to contact them and notify them on what our discussion is and why. At any rate, I just found that out, so y'all know as much about that as I do. I just found out yesterday. Myron, you have anything?
No report.
Jeffrey?
No report.
Marty?
I was just going to say, I had some people ask me about Tommy's Wreck, and I just made the comment that this should bring awareness to not only our road department employees, but our sheriff's department, fire department, ambulance service, city police. All these guys take a risk, guys and girls, men and women both take a risk every day they go out. They don't know what they're going to come into, so they try to be as safe as they can. I know every department has safety classes and tries to do as best they could, but then the public in general needs to, watch too. Everybody needs to be as cautious as possible, because nobody wants to get hurt. When those men and women leave in the morning, they want to come home to their family at night. So we all need to work together on that.
Absolutely. Thank you. Counselor?
no report.
Sheriff, you have anything else to share?
No, sir.
Mr. Clark? Joe Mark, anything from the jail? Anything with planning and zoning, John? Paul, anything with maintenance?
No, sir.
Nelson, anything with fire department? Bobby, anything with road department? Gentlemen, I do need to have a motion and a second to enter into executive session pursuant to KRS 61.810, paragraph F, discussions or hearings which might lead to the appointment, discipline, or dismissal of an individual employee.
So moved.
Got a motion by Marty,
Second.
second by Jeffrey. All in favor, aye. Any opposed? We'll meet back over here, where did Adam go?
His office. Yeah.
Because we will have action when we get back in here. We have to take up the claims. Yeah. So we'll need
I second
Hang on,
that.
hang on, hang on. All right, I need the motion to come out of executive session
So moved.
in a second.
Yeah.
I got a motion by Marty, a second by Jeffrey. All in favor, aye. Any opposed? That motion carries. Moving back to pick up the business of the bills and claims, I would need a motion and a second to approve the bills and claims as presented. I got a motion by Myron,
Second.
a second by Jeffrey. Any question or discussion?
Yeah, I'd like to say, since receiving information from the auditor that we should be planning and zoning administrator, I will not be voting for any claims unless his claim is pulled separate, and then y'all can vote for that. Or I'll just vote against the claims.
And the claims are a standing order that,
Well, like
Or the
payroll,
payroll is standing order.
utilities is a standing order, yeah. But then after, usually the way the auditor tells us to do it is, even though it's a standing order, we pay it and go with that because DLG has looked over those and reviewed those line items that are allowed to be standing order, but then also present that to fiscal court because they ultimately need to approve it after the fact, so.
is there a way to pull one claim from the other out of the claims as a group, or no?
Well, I mean, the way that we have the payroll in there, it's on like the very last few pages. And you'll see where it says Simpson County gross payroll on the Excel spreadsheet, and it has general. That's where that payroll is incorporated into that. It's grouped into one. Because they did suggest that payroll-wise, don't be printing out everything that has each individual person's name on it, so.
And is this on every claim document that we get? Or
Well,
just
every
the
time we
ones
have
from the
payroll, it rolls to the next court meeting where we go in and put that in there, so.
So it's not on every meeting, it's not a part of the claims on every meeting, just the ones we have that are immediately after payroll?
Yes, which, I mean, ultimately, you all get them on that spreadsheet, and they're all grouped in there,
Gotcha.
so.
All right, so we got a motion and a second. All I can do is call for a vote. All in favor, aye. Any opposed?
No.
That motion would carry.
So that's what, 301?
Yes. I held my nose and voted. All right, next, gentlemen, I would need a motion and a second to authorize the county attorney to draft a letter to the city of Franklin and authorize the judge to sign the letter requesting that we would send a notice of termination for the interlocal agreement regarding planning and zoning pursuant to Article 4.1 of that document.
Are you including the other?
And include in that to address the auditor's email concerning the time cards and the way the time cards are processed of county employees.
So moved.
I got a motion by Marty. Second by Myron. Any other question or discussion? All in favor, aye. Any opposed? Counselor, that would have been a unanimous vote. Gentlemen, the only other thing I need is a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Got a motion by Jeffrey, second by Marty. All in favor, aye. Any opposed? That motion carries.